Welcome everyone. Today we are going to be giving an update for Wax. I'm Malcolm CasSelle and I'm here with William Quigley. Thank you for joining us today. William, please get us going.
Hey everybody, it is great to be able to speak to all of you. March 2018. So I want to go through about probably 20 minutes, maybe a little longer, 25 minutes of prepared remarks, and then we can take questions. Here we go. This gives you a sense of what we'll be talking about today. Hopefully, most of this information is the sorts of things we think we would want to know, and hopefully you will as well. Anything at the end, as you can see, we'll be taking questions. If you submit your questions, we will go through them and answer them at the end of our session. So first, let me cover the token generation event. And that is something that we felt was quite successful. We had a very successful sale. There was a large number of contributors, which for us is what was most important, a large number of video gamers, people who obviously understand the great need for a product in a blockchain-based solution like Wax. We have a very active Telegram community, and you'll often see, I look at many different companies that have done TGEs. They may have a lot of members in their Telegram, but you don't see much enthusiasm or back and forth, just conversation. I think for Wax, you see lots and lots of interested people engaging with us every day. We appreciate it, and we are learning quite a lot about our community and what the needs are from that. Now let's get to what's happened since the token generation event. So what you're looking at here is just a 90-day timeline, not by any means comprehensive. There would be a lot more dots on there, but things that we thought would be representative of the sorts of work we're doing right now. As you can see, right after the token distribution event in December, Opskins began taking Wax as a payment method. And we wanted to do that because we understood many people who were using Wax, who had acquired Wax, wanted to use it to do what Opskins does, which is allow people to buy and sell skins online. We have now, I believe we have some stats in the back, but I believe it's over $1 million of deposits so far have come through Opskins. I believe we'll talk a little bit more of that in a few minutes. But you can also see something that really no one was thinking about back in mid-2017, which was the ERC 721 type of phenomenon. You saw that first with CryptoKitties, and then of course, and we'll talk more about this, a whole bunch of other companies now doing similar types of basically video games, a type of video game. And we call them crypto collectibles. But we have, of course, become quite an important place for that, because at the end, all of these companies are producing ERC 721 tokens, and those need to be traded. And non-fungible tokens, NFTs, can't really be traded on exchanges. They're really products, and they need to be sold on marketplaces. And of course, that's what Opskins is, and that's what it's building for other people. You'll also see a few other things on here, including the fact that at this point, you can now buy more than 5 million separate types of virtual items with Wax on Opskins. On the community development side, and again, this is sort of some of the major places that we've been, but by no means comprehensive. We do a lot of community outreach across the world, but we have been probably every 2 weeks since the token generation event. We have been somewhere discussing what Wax is doing and really discussing the industry overall, the virtual item trading industry, which many people were not aware of prior to Wax, how big it was and how many people participate, hundreds of millions across the world. And I'll make the point here that these are announced partnerships. We have many others that as they become finalized, we'll be able to share with you, our audience. This is just a tweet noting what I mentioned earlier. Lots and lots of items that you can now buy with the Wax token. Let's get into something I briefly touched on a minute ago, crypto collectibles. Now, I assume a lot of you who own Wax tokens are video game enthusiasts, and you've been looking at this area. Now, I've been in the video gaming world for a long, long time, and every time a new platform comes along, you see any technology platform, you see video gamers in particular jumping into it. It seems like the industry that most quickly adopts new technologies. So, the very first real commercial application of Bitcoin was actual game, Satoshi Dice. With NFTs, and again, these are non-fungible tokens. So these are a classification of Ethereum token, the typical one. In fact, the one that Wax issued in its token generation event was called an ERC-20. It's a smart contract. It's kind of a general purpose smart contract. The ERC-721 is different from the ERC-20, the standard Ethereum token you're used to, in the sense that the ERC-721 has unique items within it. So one ERC-721 is distinct from another, whereas you don't care about a Bitcoin, whether you get one or the other Ethereum. You do care about ERC-721s. And this property, the ability to put, let's say, skins into tokens, has caused a whole new category of video game companies to develop. And we call these crypto collectibles. Who knows, another name may pop up over time. But just in, 3 months since CryptoKitties became known to us, we now have, actually we're into March, so it's much more than 120. I think it's like 160 or 70 game companies that have announced they will be building a crypto collectible game. And of course, this is precisely the sort of market development that inspired Wax. We trade on OpSkins. We trade skins, a very big market. All of those are unique. And now with crypto collectibles, same kind of phenomenon. And we believe that there will be a larger and larger number of video game developers moving into this space. Predictions, they're fraught with risk, but what I'll tell you from my experience with a few other platforms, Flash games, for instance, when the Flash game phenomenon started, they were really crappy games. All the PC gamers and the console gamers kind of crapped all over them and said, who cares about Flash games? They're crappy, no one will use them. And over time, they became incredibly popular. Yahoo Game Portal had hundreds of millions of monthly active users coming to it. And then, of course, the next big phenomenon was mobile games. Another thing you'll often see is whenever a new platform gets developed for gamers, the older platform guys tend to criticize the new one as not real games. And you're seeing that with a lot of incumbent game companies now saying the ERC-721 game companies, these crypto collectibles aren't real games. I think that'll change. And probably brand new ways of doing things within a game because of the blockchain will emerge. So there's this big new market of crypto collectible game companies, and the process of actually buying one of those is quite a burden. And here in front of you is sort of a process, two-step process of how this gets done. The first is how this would be done today if you wanted to buy a crypto collectible token. And this is a stylized version, meaning it's not perfect. There's many, many additional steps. The main point I want to emphasize here is, like so many things in the crypto space, this is hard to do, particularly when you're talking about people who are not well versed in things like cryptos, buying them, how to acquire them, how to safeguard them. So for the crypto collectible business game category to really grow, we're going to need much more convenience in the way people acquire the tokens, and then in the way they use them to play these games. So for Obskins, we've taken a different look, or a different approach. Our approach is to try to allow people to almost take baby steps in acquiring crypto collectibles. And that baby step really means using fiat money, because the vast majority of the world does not have a crypto. They don't know how to buy them, and it's a complicated process. So if you look at the step below the green one, it's really basic. If somebody wants to get into crypto collectibles today, you go to the Obskins website, you create an account, you do exactly what you would do in any other e-commerce sort of situation, pay with credit card, PayPal, whatever, or crypto, and then you're done. You never even need to take possession of the crypto collectible token if you don't want to. Think of it like Coinbase, where you could register for an account, pay with fiat, own cryptos, sell them down the road, get fiat sent back to you, and never have to deal with the whole crypto process, which is confusing for a lot of people. We, of course, with Wax, will make capabilities like this available for all companies that want to do the buying and selling of virtual items. And you'll notice over time something that we focus on tremendously here at Wax, which is making things convenient for consumers. The number one barrier to adoption of almost any consumer product is the convenience hurdle. The more convenient something is, the more likely they are to adopt it. So if we all know who are on this call for sure that cryptos remain one of the least convenient things for consumers to touch. Let me get into now some of the progress we've had with our press and social media. Malcolm, would you mind taking away?
Sure. And for any of you who have questions, you'll see the Q&A button. So please go ahead and submit your question, and we'll try and get to as many as we can for the end. As you saw through the many posts on our social, we have had a lot of notable attention with major publications. One of the dynamics we've noticed is that we've been able to increase our efficiency and increase coverage of Wax post TGE, and we've been able to more than double the amount of readership and the amount of views we've been able to attain with coverage. So you should be seeing a fair amount of presence online for the company. We've also added 14 hires to the team. We have 23 total supporting Wax today. We're hiring very, very selectively, so it takes longer than we would like. We wish we could hire much faster, but we're, again, focused on quality over quantity. As we've mentioned before, that's really the underlying theme in a lot of what we do. Let's see. In terms of the product roadmap, I'm going to let William talk a little bit about where we're headed with the product.
Yeah. Obviously, feel free to jump in on here. All right. So first, to give everybody on this call a really high-level understanding of the Wax protocol, the Wax blockchain, and what it is doing. This gives you in one sort of chart the way to think about it. It's the way we think about how you build a global ecosystem on the blockchain. And I should probably use the word transfer a global ecosystem, because there's a global ecosystem today of all of these piece parts that you see in front of you, these little slices, marketplaces and affiliate companies, companies that specialize in the merchandising and the search for these items, and of course things that companies like Opskins does, payments and escrow, virtual item storage, and so forth. The ecosystem, and it is truly an economic ecosystem, needs lots and lots of these support areas. You could have a great marketplace with lots of items available for sale, but if you don't have an escrow function, the market doesn't really work. So each piece needs, each piece is necessary for this virtual item, global virtual item ecosystem to exist. And so companies like Opskins and others in the space do lots of these individual functions. Of course, on a blockchain, many of them can be done much better. For those, hopefully, who've read the white paper, you know which pieces here ultimately need to be done or should be done just from an efficiency standpoint on a blockchain as opposed to the traditional centralized approach. So how do we get there? And that's this slide in front of you, a one-year timeline, which again, there are many hundreds of individual components to building what we are building. This gives you what I hope is sort of some key milestones in this process. So we've talked about the fact that Wax is now used on the largest e-commerce company in the world for accepting and paying out in crypto, and that is Opskins. There's no other e-commerce company in the world that accepts more in crypto deposits and pays out more in crypto for people selling their items. So we know a lot about what's necessary when it comes to helping people run these sorts of marketplaces, which of course what the Wax protocol helps to do. You also see 3 items there around crypto collectibles or the ER721 type of token companies. And 9 months ago, this was not a phenomenon. It now is, but fortunately, companies like Wax were preparing for just this sort of phenomenon. So in Q2, we will have a marketplace that will allow people to buy and to sell crypto collectibles. And it's a funny thing building a marketplace, a global marketplace, which my partners and I have done twice so far. It looks deceivingly easy. And then you get into it and you realize there's all kinds of things that are necessary to make it simple and to make it work right. The supply and demand imbalance for one by region. We believe that there's 2 critical pieces that have to be done. The first is a self-service mechanism, and that's so that people who want to create a crypto collectible item, a crypto collectible game, can easily find a place, think of it like Google Play or iTunes, but a store where they can allow others to buy and sell the tokens that those games produce. And making it self-service, of course, just means it can scale a lot more. And it has to get there if crypto collectibles get to a point like the flash game or mobile game market, where there's literally millions of these things being made. Down below, you'll see stuff specific to the Wax protocol. Finalizing our blockchain selection, which we're doing at the end of this month. And then, of course, implementing things like the Wax DPoS, which is a fundamental part, obviously, of the Wax protocol. And then you see a bunch of individual contracts that we've laid out there, the listing contract, settlement, dispute resolution, and so forth. Something for all of you to think about. I've been involved in crypto for a long time, and I've was involved in the very first company called Mastercoin that developed a smart contract on a blockchain. At that time, it was the Bitcoin blockchain. And one of the things that I've learned and my team has learned about smart contracts is there are many, many, many corner cases to the way a contract can work and should work. And in the real world, it can be almost a limitless number of corner cases. As a result, the way you design these contracts, which will do precisely what you program them to do, whether you like that or not, and some of you might remember the Dow and the fact that that contract did what it was supposed to do, but no one knew it was supposed to do it. So lots of money was lost. So as a result, making these smart contracts, consumer mass marketable smart contracts, is a lot of work. And that's what we're doing now. Lots of work going into the logic. Now, the good news is this. There is no one else in the world who knows more about trading the virtual items, skins, and other in-game virtual items than the team at Wax. We've been doing this since the late 90s. My partner actually invented the concept of trading an in-game virtual item for fiat. We are well aware of all of the corner cases, and we're trying to cover all of those and how we make these contracts and how we make them work, and including stuff like dispute resolution. There's always some problem. But a good thing about this from our particular business is that the average transaction is maybe $10 to $20. And there's many of them, of course, but they're relatively small, which means if there were a problem, it wouldn't be catastrophic and it could be dealt with. Getting to the punchline, at the end of 2018, when we've done with our guild creation system and guild voting system, the Wax protocol, the Wax blockchain, will become operational. And we are working clearly very, very hard to make sure that we hit all of these tight deadlines. But the thing that I mentioned at many conferences when we were going through the Wax token generation event, and I've mentioned to some of you, I've spoken to personally, the number one challenge that all of the companies that are doing something in the consumer market have to deal with when it comes to blockchain is scalability. And a few months ago, we were very hopeful with new developments being done in EOS and new developments in Ethereum and other chains that we'd be able to handle the types of volumes that go on today in the item trading market. And just in the last 30 days, I can say that the progress I've seen getting made makes me very comfortable that we will have the scalability necessary to tolerate the demands of these markets by the end of 2018. Something that we thought you all might get some benefit out of, which is the results of a survey that we recently conducted. We went to 1,000 video gamers, and so people who are basically trading virtual items, know about virtual items, and we asked them some questions with the goal of trying to understand what's the state of comprehension about blockchain and crypto, and do they understand the benefits? So here are some high-level stats. Point here I would tell you is a lot of people trading virtual items, and these stats would have looked very different a year ago. But companies, not just Wax, but other companies have been doing a lot of good work promoting the fact that blockchain is a great way to trade the non-physical. So you'll see 75% of those surveyed would like to be able to exchange their virtual goods into a currency that they could use to buy or sell on other platforms. And that's a big deal. In video gaming world, platforms tend to be closed. And so you don't have these universal ways of taking something you've acquired in one game and doing something in another. The other point I'd make here is from this surveyed audience, 55% of them already owned a cryptocurrency. That is also a statistic that would look extremely different and much smaller a year ago. So we're making headway in this important market. When it comes to video gamers' understanding of the benefits of cryptocurrency, when it comes to trading items cross-border, we were quite pleased with the results. And I want to make the point that the majority of in-game virtual items that get bought and sold do get bought and sold across border. Someone in Brazil buying it from somebody in China, someone in the US buying it from someone in the UK, just because online video gaming communities are global. And of course, as a result, you have the problem of first getting money cross-border, which many of you who try to do that know it's expensive to do. And in particular, there are hidden costs like the conversion costs of going from one currency to another. WAC's team has spent a lot of time understanding how big of a market that is, how big of a problem that is. Globally, by the way, the figures I've seen are over $1 trillion of costs borne by consumers for exchanging currencies, one currency for another. I actually think this is one of the biggest benefits of cryptocurrencies that rarely gets talked about, because conversion is such a big deal. Yes, it's expensive to send a wire or to send a payment internationally, but it's not just the payment fees that you have to incur, it's the cost of going in and out of other currencies. So there was a really healthy level of understanding of these sorts of benefits for the video game community. This might be helpful for some of you. My days as a venture capitalist, I always tend to want to look at how the companies in the marketplace stack up. So here is a matrix. You can see on the horizontal axis, it's an indication from left to right of the financial resources of the businesses that you have in this sector, the virtual item marketplace sector. And then the vertical axis is the amount of transaction volume. We can quibble over whether Discord should be higher or lower and whatnot. This is meant to give general impression. It's not exact, but from our vantage point, from an Opkins vantage point, the largest company in the world in this space, we have a pretty good understanding of where people fit. And so I think each of these companies, by the way, each of these companies do something somewhat different. So one could say, oh, are these all competitors? I don't necessarily see it that way. But what is fantastic is $500 million has been raised in the past year for companies to move virtual item trading to the blockchain, which means lots more capabilities and I think a much bigger market, because it's going to make it much easier for people to trade, cross-border in particular. And that generally means market expansion. You'll also see in the lower left-hand corner a bunch of names huddled together: Rarebits, OpenSea, Metagame, Etherbay, and so forth. So these are marketplaces that just focus on ERC 721 companies, the crypto collectible companies. So we're already seeing marketplaces pop up, and they are, of course, ultimately going to need many different ways to buy and to sell. And they will need fiat capabilities. They'll also need to be able to very quickly, rapidly allow people to exchange one item for another, but they won't be exchanges, right? Because those items are unique. And that's why we call them marketplaces. Another way of looking at the market, again, this is for all the geeks on the call who tend to like understanding competitive strategy, market dynamics, that sort of thing. You saw an illustration earlier of the various pieces that WAX is harnessing in order to allow virtual items to be more efficiently traded. Well, there are many point solutions in each of these functional areas. I'm not going to go into all of them, but this says to me a very healthy ecosystem is beginning to develop. I'll point out one, because I know some of you are familiar with many of these, but I'll point out one that maybe doesn't get as much attention, and that's marketing and affiliates. So the internet space is driven, the consumer internet space is driven by affiliate networks. Some of you are familiar with that term, some of you aren't. But affiliates are any company that introduces a customer to a product or a service. So even Amazon pays affiliates, pays people to send traffic to their site. And there's many, many problems with how affiliates get paid, whether they're properly paid for what traffic they sent, and so forth. So in our years on Opskins and now within Wax, we have also known that the same problem will exist in the virtual item trading world, but also can be solved really easily with a blockchain-based solution. So Wax will be using and interacting with a lot of those solutions you see there in order to make it much easier. In the world that we imagine for Wax, an affiliate will be able to be paid out of a smart contract-based transaction instantly upon that transaction settling. They'll never have to worry about whether that transaction actually happened because it'll be posted in the blockchain. So this, again, is just one illustration of the way cryptos and blockchain are going to make this industry much better. I thought a special mention need to happen about companies that are tokenizing virtual items. And by the way, it seems like every week we're adding another company to this space. These are essential businesses to making the non-physical world as robust and as big economically as moving the physical items across the world. You know, what Amazon does for physical, Wax ultimately wants to do for the non-physical. And one of the stepping stones for that is you need to tokenize these items first so that they can be easily ported. These companies in front of you are helping to do that. I've met with many of the people in these companies. They're doing lots of good work. They've all done ICOs. I ran into the Engine guys at Game Developers Conference this week. Very smart team, helping to educate the video game world about using ERC 721 tokens within their game to make it much better experience for their users. So if you're following any of these companies and you know what we're talking about, but be following this trend, the amount of assets that are getting tokenized as sort of a barometer of the pace of blockchain moving into the virtual item trading market. And with that, it's just about 30 minutes. Malcolm and I will go through these questions that have been submitted and hopefully be able to answer them quickly. There were a lot of questions. There were some repeat questions, so we're going to try to bundle them. Malcolm, you want to take the first one there?
Yeah, sure. So one of the questions was when the Wax blockchain will be released, you'll have two coins, one for storage and one for mainnet. That is very true. So the ERC20 token that is available now is essentially a placeholder for the ultimate chain token, and they will both continue to exist.
Yeah, and that's we can debate this. I've debated it with the team here, but the convention has been that when an ERC20 token is issued in, let's say, a token generation event or an ICO, and then the eventual protocol token gets released, that you turn in your ERC20 and you receive the protocol token. I've not thought of that as an efficient way of doing things. In our mind, once people have a token, tokens are essentially brands. They're used for transactions, and certainly Wax is in that case today. We don't see any reason why you would want to get rid of it. So there may be a reason, by the way, and we've got 9 months to think about it, but absent us coming up with a reason to do otherwise, our plan is to issue a protocol token to anyone who holds the ERC20 token, and you will have two tokens. Think of it as Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, right? Ethereum, Ethereum Classic, however you want to think about it. But you'll have two tokens. But one of those tokens will be more of a transactional token. That's the ERC20. That's what Wax is today. And the other is a protocol token for the buying and selling of virtual items via smart contracts. So hopefully that addresses that question.
Yeah, I think there are questions about sort of what the purpose of those two tokens are, how they will interact with each other, and so forth. And I think we can talk about that.
I'll try one more time. We released Wax as an ERC20 token, which means it was literally it was the quid pro quo. It was what those who participated in the token generation event received as a result of participating, right? It's a token, and it's obviously an Ethereum-based token, so it's tradable and does all of the things that Ethereum-based tokens do. The protocol token, the Wax token, which will come out, as I mentioned, at the end of 2018, that is literally the token that will do smart contract-based buying and selling. So today, the state of the blockchain scalability, as I mentioned earlier, simply would not accommodate the transaction volume that our world does. But it will. We're confident of that, and the Wax protocol token will allow people to engage in the business that Wax was designed for.
One of the other questions that came up is why can't other platforms just use PayPal, and why is Wax more convenient?
So if only it were so. And I think this was a question regarding ERC 721 focused marketplaces, the crypto collectible marketplaces. Many payment processors are not comfortable with cryptos. That's hopefully not news to those of you here. Banking has always been a tremendously difficult thing for businesses. I've been doing this since 2012. An investor and a creator of several crypto-based, blockchain-based businesses, and banking has been a constant problem. It's getting a little easier, but still a problem. So one reason why many crypto collectible marketplaces won't be able to use fiat is because the state of the fiat world today. But I'll give you the other reason, and it's probably even more relevant, and that is this. When somebody accepts a credit card or accepts a PayPal payment, that is what I would call a theoretical payment. And it's theoretical because it can be reversed. You've all heard of credit card chargebacks. You might have heard of payment processor account takeovers, or somebody steals your account. We're experts in this. Through 20 years of buying and selling and facilitating that with virtual items, we've done billions and billions of dollars across the world in payments. You will be eaten alive if you try to start an e-commerce site or a virtual item marketplace today and allow people to use something like credit cards and traditional payment processors like a Skrill or a PayPal without a highly sophisticated operation to manage frauds and chargeback. You simply cannot function. So this is the reason why new marketplaces will have a very hard time doing it. And it's why right now most of them would prefer to do cryptos because of the properties of cryptos. They're permissionless and they are immutable. So there are no chargebacks. So that's hopefully a quick understanding of why you can't just use fiat payment processes as a marketplace for crypto.
Thanks, William. One of the other questions we're seeing here is what are the benefits of Wax tokens compared to other options in the Opskins platform? So the primary options today for cashing out, we'll start there, is fiat like US dollars, euros, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Wax. And I think ultimately the fee that you have to pay to cash out is where the rubber hits the road.
That's right. Yeah, it's a funny thing. So as I mentioned earlier in this call, I've been involved in this space since 2012, and was co-founder of a crypto payment processor called GoCoin, and so forth. The thing that was not as big of a problem a few years ago, and now is a huge problem, is transaction fees. If you consider a marketplace like Opskins, which does an average transaction of $10 to $20, and just a few months ago, Bitcoin transaction costs were $50. It was basically impossible to use Bitcoin in order to conduct any kind of transaction. And most consumers who have crypto have Bitcoin, but it was very hard to accept it for us because we'd have to incur a $50 fee for a $20 transaction. So payment processor fees, big problem, are crypto mining fees. Even Ethereum, goes between 12 cents and 25 cents, which you might not think is a big deal, but if you're selling an item, and we sell lots of items, the average may be $10, but we sell lots of items for a penny, for a nickel, for a dollar. You pay 25 cents on a dollar transaction, that's a 25% transaction cost. It doesn't work. So in general, you need very, very, very low cost transaction costs, and Wax is by far the cheapest on Opskins today compared to the other choices we have.
And of course, as the custom blockchain goes live, that cost will go down another order of magnitude, maybe more.
Yeah.
So the next question, and there's two questions here we probably want to address together, is about how we scale up the Wax platform, when that's going to happen. I know many people are talking about the base layer. So as we mentioned before, we're going to announce the core technology direction at the end of the month. In terms of scaling up to millions of transactions per second, a million transactions per second is
well, that's a theoretical level people talk about.
Yeah.
Not even Visa, right, needs to do that.
Yeah. So I don't know if we will need to have technology to reach that point. And I think, William, you made this point before, that you've never seen in 20, 30 years of venture where if there was a need for something financially, that scaling didn't occur.
That's right. That's exactly.
And I thought that was a wonderful point about kind of the relationship between need and technology.
Yeah, my partners and I were the first institutional investors in PayPal, and I remember one of the big criticisms was, it's never going to scale, it's never going to scale. Well, when they started, this goes back to 1999, 2000, so the numbers may not seem as impressive now, but they were doing 25 to 30,000 new customers being acquired per day. For the internet at that time, that was very impressive. And we were told, yeah, but as they start to generate lots more volume, the technology of the day will not allow it. And of course, we disagreed and thought, no, when there's an economic incentive for something to happen, it happens. So, and as I mentioned earlier, we've been looking at the state of the transaction scalability capabilities with the various blockchains that are under consideration for Wax. And we are confident at this time that we will be able to maintain and hit the scalability requirements when we release it at the end of the year.
And I think there are some questions also about, have tests been done, anything we can share with the public about our development team. I think the easiest way to address this is, as we mentioned earlier, 14 new members have been added to the team. We have now dedicated blockchain engineers. We have a lot of development occurring, as you saw in the product roadmap. As we continue to develop those contracts, we will be doing updated releases, letting the community see what's going on. We don't have any development that we are prepared to talk about today, but we do have a schedule that everyone has seen earlier in the presentation.
Yeah, and I'll just comment on that. As someone who's been in technology development for 30 years or so, there is the most important thing for me as a venture capital investor and as somebody who buys tokens and participates in ICOs, and we do a lot of that here, is the credibility of the team and their proven track record in delivering product that scales, that works for the consumer. I know our team has more experience in that than any other team in the virtual item trading marketplace. So we also, as a tradition, it's very new in let's say the crypto space. The notion of showing test nets is this in my mind, kind of a way of waving to people and saying, hey, we're not asleep, we're not on vacation, but this is an everyday event for us, right? Obviously, we are testing many different components of our technology. When I look to the businesses that I've bought tokens for and look at a lot of what they are showing, I suppose I take a little bit of comfort in, thank you for showing me that, but it really doesn't tell me very much. You know, it's rare that you need a monthly update from a technology development team, unless you're actually the VP of engineering working on this stuff. And we have a very competent engineering team and a very competent head of engineering to manage this. So as to what we are going to show down the road, we haven't yet decided, but suffice to say, we've worked with many outside parties for decades. We understand what other people want to see to get confidence in building off of our platform. And the WAX protocol chain is going to be something we hope many people in the virtual item trading market and industry want to use. So of course, we'll be doing a lot of demonstrations of that.
Thanks, William. One of the questions we're seeing here, this is a kind of interesting one. It's sort of conflating two ideas. One, they're saying, take the example of Ripple. Banks are refusing to use XRP because it's too volatile. How confident are you that the same problem won't occur with WAX? There's a follow-up question about pegged asset contract. Those actually are not really, those don't need to be coupled. The volatility issue for payment processing has already been solved.
Yes, that's right.
And
yeah, let me. So this, people make a big deal of the volatility of cryptos in when used for e-commerce. I mean, newsflash: currencies. Not all currencies are U.S. dollar. Many currencies are very volatile. They may not be as volatile as cryptos, but the concept of intolerable volatility to a business has existed since people were exchanging one currency for another, because many businesses have very low tolerance for the volatility in the currencies they accept. So this is a problem long ago solved, but in particular, it's been solved for any e-commerce company in the world that wants to accept the cryptocurrency, but is afraid if accepts it, that it's going to be subject to, well, let's face it, no one really cares about volatility when the price is going up. So we're really talking about when the price drops. But that, if you want to call that volatility, fine. No one has to tolerate that today because of companies like GoCoin, a company I'm involved with, and companies like BitPay. There are others. Crypto accepting payment processors, they take the risk from the merchant. A merchant takes a crypto from a consumer, and these companies, BitPay and GoCoin, they actually give the merchant cash and they take the crypto and they immediately sell it because they're set up to do that on an exchange or multiple exchanges, and they get some profit margin. It's not unlike currency conversion and how that works in business. So when you consider that the volatility minute by minute is quite low almost always for these things, if somebody wants to use a smart contract like WAX in order to buy or sell an item, it will be very easy to immediately convert that into something else, either fiat or another cryptocurrency, with tools already available today, and many more that are coming as more and more consumers want to get in and out of cryptos. So hopefully from that, what you hear from us anyway is we think the problem of volatility with respect to consumers using cryptos for buying and selling everyday items is mostly solved, and it's not going to be a barrier for the adoption of smart contract-based cryptos for buying and selling virtual items.
Yeah, I mean, specifically XRP's problem in banks is different because of what they're trying to do versus a transaction from the merchant perspective, but that's a longer conversation. So the next question here was, will WAX be able to incorporate into other gaming sites? I mean, companies that do not want to create their own ecosystem, licensing to them, so to speak. Exactly, that's the whole purpose of WAX, so that people don't have to build their own ecosystem. They'll have access to all of the items inventory. They'll have access to customers who can buy and sell, so liquidity. They'll have access, obviously, to a standardized payment platform. And that is the whole point to incorporating Wax into gaming sites.
Yeah. And let's see, there's a few other questions that I'm trying to look at because some of them are similar. Someone's asking, what is Wax doing to speed up the adoption of people using cryptocurrencies in order to trade? And what I would say is this is the great outreach that is we're doing at Wax, but also many of the other companies that we highlighted today are doing. I was just at the largest indie game conference, indie video game conference in the world, Game Developer Conference in San Francisco, which I've attended for many, many, many years. And there was lots and lots of talk about blockchain-based solutions and incorporating cryptos in video games. So this will be a joint effort of many, many, many companies extolling all the virtues of Bitcoin and other cryptos for people buying and selling items within a game. Like I mentioned before, video gaming is interesting, and item trading in video gaming is very interesting because it's such a global phenomenon. Opskins itself does business with over consumers in over 100 different countries. People trade items and play video games across the world, which the cross-border dimension of blockchain and crypto is what makes it particularly well suited for video game applications. Any other questions you see here, Malcolm?
Yeah, I think we're sort of out of time. We've planned for 45 minutes here, and I think we're a little over. So I think what we're going to do is wrap it up from here. What I would love to remind everyone about right now is, of course, you can join our Telegram channel to continue any questions or discussion. Go to the website, wax.io. On the homepage, you'll see community. Click on that. You can join the Telegram group and continue to stay in touch. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. We appreciate your questions, and I hope that this was valuable for you.
Yeah, we intend to be doing these periodically. We know lots of people like as much information as they can get. As Malcolm said, Telegram, very helpful. But if you have any commentary on this, I would really encourage you to mention it in the Telegram channel so that we will know to incorporate that in the next one we do. You can also sign up for our email newsletter. If you go to wax.io, you can sign up for that and get lots more detailed information on a regular basis.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.